Hi, and welcome to the Keys to Therapy. Today's guest is Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to chat with a friend while we're recording.
Yeah, why not? Have people have a sneak peek into our
That's
conversation.
right. That's right.
Well, do you want to tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am the owner, clinical director, therapist, all the hats, all
All the
the things,
hats.
for Sage Counseling and Wellness. And so things to know is that I have recently hired 3 clinicians. I'm super tickled. It's very exciting. Holy moly, all another hat as HR now.
Yeah.
So there's that. In terms of specialties, I work with anxiety, highly sensitive people, perfectionist, premarital counseling, and then sex therapy. So never a dull moment in the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
But besides that, mostly virtual sessions. And then I do outdoor walk and talk sessions at a local park once a month, just for some steps, fresh air, sweat in the Georgia heat. Why not?
Oh, yeah. Why not? Then you're like detoxing as well. So,
Exactly. So it's very healthy, detoxing all the things. So it's good.
exactly.
Yeah. So that's me.
Yay. Well, I wanted to know a little bit about your grad school journey because I know there's so many new therapists watching this channel and everybody has different experiences. And I love that you were in a different state, you have different specialties. So, if we could talk a little bit about that today, but kind of start first with why you decided to be a therapist in the first place.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, I mean, I will make this as short as I possibly can. I was always the mom friend of the group. I always
Mhm.
was like the shoulder to cry on, the listening ear, the there kind of person. So that would just came naturally, very empathetic. I'm also a highly sensitive person or an HSP. So I was kind of made for this.
Yeah.
Convenient. And so with that said, I was like, wow, I really enjoy talking to people, seeing how I can do things to help them figure out maybe a solution or even just to vent things out. And so from there, I was like, maybe I'll consider therapy. Maybe I'll consider psychology realm. But first, I was like, let me try physical therapy and completely flunked
Oh,
out of like the weed out class.
yeah.
And that did not go well. It's fine. Perfectionism brain was like, you know what?
Just pivot.
It is what it is. Pivot. So ended up doing bachelor's in psychology,
Right.
and I got my master's in counseling, which takes a hot minute, as we all know. And here we are in terms of owning a private practice. And it's just wild that I've
Yeah.
wanted this since I was like 18. So that fact that it's really here.
Yeah. I love how that turns out. It feels like this field attracts people. It's almost like we're made for this field. Like everybody's got a story where it kind of starts out with it just made sense to be this or do this. So it's
No,
fun.
I love it. I mean, call me crazy, maybe like I'm a little therapy nerd, but I look forward to each day of work.
Hmm.
It's like a little worky because there's documentation and that kind of thing.
Emails. Mhm.
But just talking to somebody, like technically this could be a therapy session if we were in a therapeutic situation.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Get paid to just talk about life. All right, sign me up.
Yeah, and I think especially once you find your niche, that's where you really know that when it doesn't feel that much like work. You're like, I found my people, I found my place. So
Mhm,
that's important for newer therapists, I think, to know as well.
absolutely.
That it shouldn't be there's hard days, but it shouldn't be consistently that hard. And if it
No.
is, you're probably not in the right place or with the right people.
Right. It could be the wrong setting. It could be the population's too intense. Like I know as an HSP, if I work with people that have really hardcore inpatient crisis moments, oh, I learned my lesson the hard way,
Yeah.
not the thing for me. And that's okay. I
Hmm.
think there's the other piece of just being okay with not you can't work with everybody. You can't be amazing with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that wasn't taught to me in grad school. So
Hmm.
I'm curious about your grad school journey. If you could share a little bit about kind of what grad school was like for you, maybe some of the best parts, the worst parts.
Yeah. Let's see. When I'm trying to think of, I think chronologically, if I don't, my
Yeah,
brain is gone.
totally fine.
So let's see. I'm trying to figure out what I want to share because grad school, even like prepping to get into grad school was exhausting. So at least for where I went was University of North Georgia,
Mhm.
and it's in Dahlonega. It's super cute, little quaint little town. It's precious.
Oh,
Um, but I applied to the program, and from numbers that I remember, that was fall of 2015 that I applied. And then it was narrowed down from maybe 250 applicants down to about 40 to do a group interview.
wow.
Yeah, not great. Um, and so the group interview happened. That was a 4-hour group interview.
Oh my
Mhm.
God.
So of where you're meeting with people you've never met before, having to have this like really solid balance of promoting yourself, but being humble and empathetic with others at the same time, because you're being watched for 4 hours.
Oh my God.
Being like interrogated lightly by professors that you've never met, trying to impress them, of like trying to remember what the heck they're researching on their end, trying to promote yourself and not sweat to death either.
Mhm.
So that was fun. Survived that. They cut the 40 that were interviewed down to 22,
Oh,
23.
geez.
So they cut that in about half. And that was my cohort that
Wow.
started in August of 2016. So that was very stressful. And
That's
I'll tell you, I'm not a great test taker at all, but I made sure that I went forward and was like, I need to make sure that you know that I'm supposed to be here.
Mhm.
So I had really solid personal statements, really solid, even like calling up a department head and being like, hey, you want me here, here's why. And I'll explain my resume if you want me to, because my test scores were crap. And that's okay, because I know me. So I prepared.
And the tests are crap anyway. Like, what do they really measure though?
Absolutely nothing.
Mhm.
Because it doesn't say how good of a therapist I'm going to be. Is can you
No.
do this math equation?
That you'll never do again, ever in this
Exactly.
field.
Yep. Everything I do for my private practice is done with a calculator or a CPA.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
need. But anyway, that's applying to grad school. We survived. Grad school itself was such a eye-opening experience for me.
Mm.
I don't know if you felt this way or maybe other people you've talked to, but it was so many reflection papers about myself and how I handle culture, my family dynamics, how I interact within the workspace, working with other people, group therapy, all those kind of things. So many reflection papers that I had not done the introspective work for myself before yet until I got into that program. So I really appreciate that piece. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone, but man, do I know myself more, especially like maybe a few weeks ago, I was looking through my old files and I found all my reflection papers for grad school. It's like, oh, look at baby Rachel figuring out all these things. It was awesome.
Aw.
So I loved that. Let's see, the professors were helpful as much as they could be. They taught the content that was on the syllabus,
Mhm.
which is great in terms of like passing your comprehensive exams. But in terms of real life experience for private practice or anything other than community mental health,
Mhm.
didn't really cover that much.
Yep.
So theory wise was super covered. Love that. I feel like I know theories quite well
Mhm.
after all of that, but the actual tangible bits of how do you do an intake session?
Yeah.
How do you do notes? How do you do documentation properly to actually cover your butt?
Mhm.
How do you charge a client through anything? Like
No.
there's no prep there. And
Mm-mm.
not to mention none of the networking, none of the marketing, none of the social media, no figuring out like who is your client avatar and all these
Mhm.
things. There's
No.
it's there. They maybe this is just my experience. I'd love to hear some of your experience as well. But was it just they want to churn us out because it's a public university and they want to churn us out and they're for just like throw us into community mental health space? I don't know.
Mhm.
That was my understanding at the time.
Yeah, same.
So
And so many of us wanted to do private practice and made that clear. And we had a few professors who were adjunct. So they were doing private practice as their actual job and just occasionally teaching. And they
Right.
still never talked about it. They
Right.
still never shared, here's how I started. Nobody talked about like niche, ideal client, any of the things you were talking about, like none of the actual practical steps. So I think
Mhm.
a lot of people felt throughout the program like, I got to get these good grades. I got to get these good grades. I got to memorize this theory and spit it back
Right.
out. But I think as everybody was in their internships and definitely as everybody was getting closer to graduation, I think everybody started to realize how little we actually knew, like practically. Like, how do
Yep.
you actually be a therapist? So, because I can write a textbook on it, maybe from the theory
Mhm.
perspectives.
For sure.
Or I have a couple handouts of things I can do in a group, but like,
Right.
how do you actually do the thing? And like you said, money, oh my God, never discussed at all.
Oh, no, definitely not. So I think that that's something that could be improved for
Mhm.
that program, but also keeping in mind, I graduated May of 2019. So maybe things changed post pandemic. Maybe there's something else that's there. If there is, yay, good job,
Yeah.
guys. If not, maybe bring me on to do a marketing networking class so I can actually help the people that want to do private practice.
Right. Agreed. That's why I'm doing all this, is because there's so many gaps in education. And I think everybody starts out just feeling scared and unprepared. And it's like, if one, you're not the only one, like you didn't do grad school wrong because you didn't come out knowing how to be a therapist. Like that takes a
Right,
long time to learn. But
right.
it's also, if these programs could maybe build some more practical skills in, I think they'd have better turnout. But you're right. It does feel very much like there's a big structure. Like, here's the syllabus, that's it, stick to it and don't go off
Mm.
script, essentially. Because why did we
And
all have the same experience?
hmm, concerning. But
Mhm.
the other thing that I was just thinking about is at least my program was KCREP accredited.
Mhm.
So I wonder, and do I remember what it stands for? No.
No.
Whoever's watching, please Google it. But with KCREP, like they had such consistent scores of doing well on comprehensive exams, passing the NCE, all these things because they taught to the KCREP accreditation
Mhm.
curriculum. And I think they wanted to keep that.
Mhm.
So I could be wrong, but it feels like that was more of the plan of either turn us out for community mental health or turn us out to make sure that we have really good rates and scores to bring in more cohorts of people and make them more money.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense because that's how it was for me in high school. Like in Florida, there was the FCAT they implemented like years later. And it was, if you didn't pass this standardized test, you would get a certificate that was like, thanks for your 12 years of school, but you wouldn't get a diploma unless you pass it. So then all of the teachers started only teaching to the test versus
Oh,
actually like, let's analyze this novel. Let's discuss your feelings about it. Turned into, what are the themes that are present within this book? Write an essay on it, and what metaphors, like it turned into more of that than it did like actual heart. So I think you may be onto something. I think a lot of the programs tend to focus so much on this like black and white education that they lose a lot of the feelings, which is crazy because we are feelings people. This is a feelings profession. So they think, like you mentioned, the reflection papers, like that covers it because you're writing about it, your experience, and then they can say, check. Yeah, don't love it.
things could be improved. But
Mhm.
the thing I'm wondering is if you've talked to somebody before that went to maybe a private institution
Mm,
to get their feedback. Like I know there's maybe like Richmond has a private counseling program. So I
mm.
wonder, or Dorneau or any of those other private institutions, could you talk to somebody, not to give you homework, but
No,
to
no,
find somebody to hear their perspective of was a private institution different compared
yeah.
to the public one?
What I've been hearing with the people I've spoken to so far is the smaller programs were the
Mm.
one, like 6 people, 5 people. They were the ones that seemed to get a lot more comprehensive education. They had more role plays, experiences, like scary stuff like filming you behind the mirror and stuff like that during like fake sessions. Um,
Right.
but it seemed like the smaller ones, they had a lot more practical knowledge. And I wonder if that's because there was the ability to do that.
Mhm. The one-on-one
Mhm.
slowing things down. Like I have a colleague of mine that I can't remember where she went, maybe Virginia Tech. I can't remember for sure. But she talked about the filming behind the two-way mirror and even like the professor and her classmates would pause her in session and
Yes.
say this instead or try this way. And she would have to actually pause the session with the client still in the session and say those things. Like, one, holy moly, terrifying.
Yeah, I
But
throw up.
also to have that one-on-one training in the moment would be so different.
Yeah, it would be terrifying. You're right. It'd be so scary. It'd be sick. But you also would be in a safe space to do those things instead of on your own going, did I mess up? Is this okay? What's going on? And all this panic after. So yeah, it seems to me it's the smaller programs that are a lot more hands-on and broader, which is interesting. But yeah, so it sounds like there was some gaps. There was knowledge you got from your program, and there's definitely some gaps there that you noticed coming out.
For sure. For sure.
Well, what was it like for you once you did graduate?
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'm gonna try and summarize all of my things then. Okay. So I knew I wanted private practice no matter what, period. So I made sure I found an internship at a private practice for so my program was 3 years. So the third year is all internship and practicum.
Okay.
So I made sure that I applied. Gosh, I keep in mind, I'm extra. So whoever's watching, please don't be like, this is the standard. No, it's not. That I applied to like maybe 50 different private practices.
Wow.
And I was like, look, I want to be here. Period. How do I get here? Here's my resume. I really advocated for myself of this is where I'm supposed to be. Help me get here.
Yeah.
So I think that was really helpful. And then I interviewed at maybe 5 or 6 different private practices that I was really invested in and tickled about, and then narrowed it down to one and started there. And then I was with that same practice for 4-ish years. And then I joined another practice afterward to just get more hours and do all the things. Because I was like, why not stress myself out with 3 different calendars and 2 different caseloads and trying to keep all these things together?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? So I did that. But I got all my hours because for Georgia, and this is just Georgia people, that pre-July of 2022, I think you had a minimum of 3 years to hit 3,000 hours. And those 3,000 hours were direct and indirect. And so as of July of 2022, it's now 2 years to hit those 3,000. Like the minimum is 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm super jealous for you guys that I didn't get grandfathered into that situation, but it is what it is. We're not salty. And trying to finish all those hours, get all those things. The thing that helped me a lot, and I don't know if this counts for you of how you got your hours as well, is the indirect hours that I counted everything. Like truly everything, of networking lunches, of random calls like this, because I was talking to another therapist about something, reading books, marketing, social media, making flyers, CEU events. I counted everything, and that helped a lot in terms of bumping my hours and counting them rather than only when I had supervision, only when I had a consultation,
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
Yeah. So with North Carolina, it was the 3,000 and minimum 2 years, and you could take your exam anytime in the 2 years. And then you had to have like 1 supervision hour for every 40 like clinical hours, but we didn't have indirect hours, wasn't really a thing. So
Interesting.
yeah, it was not that I don't even remember them talking to us about. I think they were just kind of like, get these hours, and most of them, if not all of them, needed to be. I did my stuff in 2012, so it's been a long time. But I remember there wasn't really, here's this indirect and here's this direct. It was like, you need all these clinical hours. So a lot of the extra stuff didn't fully count for us at that point. So we couldn't really count phone calls and all of that from what I remember. But so people in private practice had a very hard time because you're not seeing as many clients.
I bet.
So I was in community mental health, so seeing too many clients. So I was able to do mine in almost exactly 2 years, but because it was like everything counted. Then I was in a group, or I was an individual, or I was in a meeting, or, and the meetings would count, I think, or trainings from what I can remember. But yeah, we didn't have the option of really including
indirect. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy how every state's different like that?
Yeah.
Why?
It's really weird.
Why?
I don't know.
Can we just have one solid, this is what you do? And that's hopefully what we're working on, is with the counseling compact. If that happens, can we just have a universal standard?
I know.
Get your hours, get your supervision, keep up with CEUs, and you're good.
Exactly. That's what I don't understand. Because I know for social work, and they're way behind on the compact thing than everybody else, which makes no sense because they're like the longest advocacy program, but what else?
Right.
But I wish that there was that standard because every state except California accepts the same exam for social work. There's one exam. So why is nothing else standardized if the test is? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in this field that doesn't make sense, but we
If
did.
we ran the world, Samantha, we would be just fine.
It'd be so organized. It'd be color coded. It would have, like you said, all the calendars and schedules, but they'd all make sense. There'd be a different color for each thing. Like it would run.
Better believe it.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe in like a decade or so. Who knows where we'll be? Because
we'll run for president. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So we'll change it all up. But yeah, so you were doing your hours in private practice, which is unique too, because I think, like you said, everybody talked about community mental health or intensive in-home or whatever else. So, but you were determined to stay on the path you knew you wanted to be on instead of waiting to start, which I think a lot of people, I don't know if you got this message in grad school, even like indirectly, but I've had a lot of people say they were discouraged from private practice or told that they needed to like earn their stripes before they could do it.
Yep. 100%. That is what I heard from many different angles.
Okay.
Was to, just like you said, earn the stripes, do the community mental health work. Nothing wrong with that. If that's where you are and it makes you happy, yay, enjoy. Yeah. I know that for me, it didn't work. There was, I did a combination of different things for community mental health while I was in grad school. So it wasn't as a therapist role. It was as a case manager. What else? Addictive disease support services and psychosocial rehabilitation person. Yeah. Don't remember all the acronyms. It was a lot, but I had technically 3 roles part-time with basically like a full caseload of people, all the while driving in my own vehicle because I didn't have enough vehicles that were state funded for me to use. Using my car, driving clients in my car if I needed to, driving in home, like it. Yeah. Things occurred. But if you have no training and no heads up of what that's supposed to look like, you don't know any different. Right. But learn very quickly that that was not the population or setting that I wanted to work with. And I did that before I even tried for internship. I said, no. I've earned my stripes. If that's where we're going down this road, I already did that. I want to do the thing I've wanted to do since I was 18 anyway. So that worked out well. But man, to be one of the first interns at a practice and help them in a sense of like figure out what does that protocol look like? How do we bring on more interns in the future? How do we brainstorm that? How do we market that? Like it is not easy since we're now both private practice owners to figure out how do you want to hire people? How do you want to bring on interns? How do you want to do all these things? It's work. It's again, another thing no one teaches you. Yeah. And you're the guinea pig at the same time that your like hours really count and you're trying to get that full license. So that's kind of tough. Yeah. Not easy, but things got figured out. I got really crafty. I learned very quickly that taking psychiatrists out for coffee, although it was on my dime, they remembered me. So making sure that you make really good connections that are going to be worth your while. And if it needs to be on your dime for a little bit, you do you, because tenfold is going to come back and help you later. Right. And with private practice, you have to network way more than you would in most other jobs because community mental health, there was no networking. It was like this agency. Yeah. So that's another good tip, I think, for new therapists is if you're going to be in a private practice, especially if they tell you they'll market for you, maybe don't count on that because you don't know to what extent or if it's going to be the marketing that works for you individually or the practice as a whole. So yeah, seek it out yourself. Oh, absolutely. The thing that I wish I had known going in, because the way my program worked was that internship started in May. So that was the beginning of slow season in private practice world. May to August, September is usually pretty dead. It is. Summer's a little different. I don't know why. Yeah. Otherwise, usually it's really, really slow. So if you don't have that heads up and you're like just kind of waiting for an intake of like, I'm ready. great. I'm so glad you're ready, but
Yeah.
you gotta do some work if you want people during those slower periods. Even the holidays, people are traveling, trying to
Right.
get people in.
Yeah.
It's hard work. So being aware and noticing trends as soon as you can for your practice, because maybe your practice is killing it in the summer for some reason, yay, but it's really slow during the school year.
Yeah.
Okay, then figure out those patterns for you and know when to market and when to do CEUs and when to have more sessions so you can build up more of a cushion financially for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think there's a trade-off, right? Because if you're in community mental health, you really don't have a lot of the time, like free time, but you've got a consistent paycheck, but
Mhm.
higher increase for burnout. So there's pros and cons. But then in private practice, you've got a lot of the time and you have a much more flexible schedule, and maybe one that works better for your life, but the pay is very up and down. And like you said, you can't count on when or what that next paycheck will look like. So
Mhm.
you have to figure out what is most important to you and what you can afford to do. I mean, I've seen some people do both, do community mental health or do some kind of like agency type job and then
Yeah,
private practice 1 or 2 nights a week to kind of put their foot in the door and get some practice with that. So yeah,
absolutely.
you have to figure out what works for you. But it sounds like you were ready to hustle. You were like, I'm going to make this work for me.
Yes, that is my brain, balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think that's a really good point that you mentioned of that doing that slow step into private practice. I've talked to a lot of people that did that. Maybe they
Yeah.
did maybe PRN and an inpatient for a crisis to really have some like solid income coming in.
Yep.
And then they do private practice a couple nights a week, or maybe even, 2 Saturdays a month, however you want to do that, because people want weekends.
Yeah.
If you want to build up quick and make some money, work a weekend.
Right. Or evenings, like late night, like till 8, 9, like, yeah.
Especially virtually, because that way kiddos are already asleep in bed. Parents can have their couple sessions at 8 o'clock at night. I mean, you might be a little tired,
Right.
but
Yeah,
you know where the clients are and when they're available.
exactly. Yeah. So it can
Mhm.
work. But well, you were getting your hours. Once you
Yes.
did, where did you go next?
Let's see. So got all my hours. What did I do? Let's see. What did I do? Hang on. Brain's working. I made sure I had already had my comprehensive exams and my NCE. I got to take that while I was in grad school. So I was really lucky that way that I took them 1 month apart. And that
Wow.
was amazing because it was such similar information that once you study for one, you just boop onto the next one. And that was, thank you, master's program, for making that happen. That
Nice.
was well done. So I already had that done. As soon as I hit truly, my poor supervisors and director were like, Rachel, slow down. It's fine. You'll get to apply for your LPC. It's fine. I was like, can I turn it in early? When can I get licensed? Please, please, please let me get in. And so we had to wait until the 3-year mark.
Mhm.
And so I did that. And then I like overnight mailed it to the board. I was like, I will pay any money to get it there as possible. So that happened. And then it took from May till September. So May 2022 to September of 2022 for the board to finally grant me LPC status.
My
I think
gosh.
part of it is that, and I'm not part of the board, so I don't know. But I think part of it is that it was really slow
Mm,
because it was summer and they were like maybe vacation or maybe they're a virtual meeting, who knows. But there was also that July 2022 I talked about it where they went from the minimum 3 years to minimum 2 years. There was a huge influx in July, and I feel like mine probably got lost
mm-hmm.
or shoved really way down. And there were a couple of things like there's so at least the Georgia board's so painfully nitpicky about dates and signatures and certain things being certain. It's wild. Whoever's applying for associate license or full licensure for things, be really mindful of dates matching up, of certain things counting or not counting. Really double check that with your supervisor. You can also contact LPCA-GA
Mm,
for Georgia, of where you can have someone look over your application with you,
oh,
number by number. It's really cool. So highly recommend investing in that because it's someone that looks at them all day.
yeah.
So things to think about there. I wish I had done that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, got LPC 2022 of September. It was like September 12th. And then I started my practice 4 days later.
What were you doing in that time to start?
In terms of like May to September.
Yeah. Or even like it, because it sounds like then you knew like once I have it, I'm going to have my own practice.
Oh yeah.
So what types of things did you do in that meantime, maybe to prep?
So many things. So there's someone that is kind of like a guru of sorts in the Atlanta realm. Her name's Dr. Becky Beaton York. On if you know her, she also runs the Knowledge Tree.
Oh.
It is lovely. I'll send you links and things for show notes.
Yeah.
But she has tons of online courses, live workshops, even paperwork bundles that have been looked at by a lawyer. Convenient. Also her husband, so that's kind of cool. But I bought the paperwork bundles and the group practice handbooks and everything that she possibly had. I was like, take my money, that's fine. And so I made sure I got all my paperwork prepared, had all of that set up for solo practice, because you can't really start a group practice when you just got licensed. That feels kind of difficult. But went ahead and did that, got all the paperwork done, made sure I really knew what EHR I wanted. So I decided to go with simple practice. I'm obsessed.
Same.
So shout out, shameless plug for simple practice. Maybe you can be sponsored.
I know I've talked about them once or twice before.
Shout out, sponsor her.
Yes.
But that's super helpful there. Made sure website was really ready to go. SEO was really prepared. I was letting people know of like, hey, I'm planning on starting a practice as soon as I'm licensed. Heads up, spread the word. Made sure I went to all the networking events, all the CEU things of like, hey, here's my card, here's the website. I hustled.
Good.
But I'll tell you, one, like, yay for my brain going that way when I'm anxious, but it's not the best thing because my anxiety was through the roof.
Yeah.
I was like, what if I don't get licensed? What if? And so lots of deep breathing, lots of yoga, lots of journaling,
Yes.
lots of my own therapy. I don't know what I'm doing. I hate being in limbo. This is not good for my perfectionism brain.
No.
Not great. So don't think that everything is sunshine and rainbows while you're just waiting for the board to do that, because you're so worried that something's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
When it's a bunch of other humans that are just going to mark you yay or nay.
Yeah.
So really take care of yourself, have lots of self-care, talk to people. I was so grateful to have someone that was from my cohort applying for licensure at the same time I was. And we would text each other like, did you hear anything? Did you hear anything? What happened? What happened?
Right.
It was so nice to check in with somebody that actually got it, rather than just like talking to my husband or my mom and be like, I'm so nervous. And they're like,
it'll be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why are you so worried about? You're going to get licensed. I'm like, you don't get it. It's so much pressure in this field to do that.
There is. It almost feels like it's the ticket. Like you need that ticket to anything else you want to do next. So you're like standing at the gates of Disney World, like, but I want to get in, but I can kind of see what's back there. And like, I want it. And you're just stuck waiting. So, but you handled it in a good way. Well, I want the cotton candy and like the Mickey Mouse ice creams and like all the things on the other side, because it's a freedom.
But especially that rope drop. Like, I mean, I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can we trademark that of like, waiting for licensure is waiting at the Disney rope drop in the morning?
Yeah, that might be an Instagram post I make for later today.
That's good.
Literally just made it up. But yeah, that's what it can feel like. But you took it in the right way of, here's the pieces of things I'm not in control over, right? Like I can't control when they're going to do my paperwork. I can't control exactly when I'm going to get it. But you took a lot of that anxiety and said, well, what can I control? And you did tons of the prep work before you launched, which I'm sure once you finally could launch, I bet it made your life a lot easier.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I did not plan to start my practice 4 days after I got my licensure. That was not the plan. It's the way it worked out. It's cool. Yeah. We're all good. But that, holy moly, to transfer a caseload of 40 from one EHR and all the notes and all the documentation and all the things and upload all the new paperwork and get that signed and get the new cards and all the things in 4 days. Woof. That was hard.
That is crazy.
I did not sleep well. That was a lot of anxious, sleepless nights of like, oh my gosh, am I missing something before this transfers?
We waited for so long. I'm sure you felt behind, even though you did all this prep work.
Yes.
There's certain things you kind of can't do until you have the actual license. So I feel like Yeah, probably felt like a race against time at that point, which is why you crammed it in.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But man, I'll tell you, the first time that I had all of my clients in my own EHR
Yeah.
without a fee split, without anything else, anyone else like looking over my shoulder. It was just me. And I
Mhm.
got that first paycheck.
Yeah, you pay yourself. You're able to see like your name on the super bill or whatever else you've got. You're like, this is my
That was
practice.
cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And you built your social media up before,
I
correct?
did.
From what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's another potential tip is you don't have to wait to do all of that stuff.
Nope. Nope. The thing I'd say to be careful about, so I started my social media November of 2018 when I was still a little baby intern. So I started that and I was like very clear of I am an intern, I am
Yeah.
supervised, I am directed, I am part of a group practice, I am not on my own. I made sure that was really painfully clear on my website, on socials, on
Yeah.
newsletters, and all the things as I slowly built to where I am. Because if I had someone point something out and be like, she's marketing on her own, because someone did that, someone messaged somebody and was like, concerning. I was like, okay, Karen,
Yeah. Seriously.
thanks
Like
for
get
your
a
help.
life.
Thanks for your support in this already competitive field. Great. But as long as you're taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
as long as your supervisors and directors are aware that you're marketing for your stuff, but it's still saying like, I am a practitioner of this practice, go for it.
Yeah.
Please make sure that clients know that you're out there, because if they don't know that you're out there, they don't know you exist.
Exactly. And you don't have to wait until every single thing is officially official, right? Like you can start building that presence because you're still a practitioner, like you're still a therapist. So
Mhm.
you can always rebrand. If you're at this practice and you're building, like, this is who I am here, you can always be like, guess what? Now I'm on my own and just rebrand it with your practice name, colors, whatever else. But
Very doable.
yeah, it's not that hard, but it sounds like there's definitely some steps that people can take if they know the path they're going to end up on. They can start those things sooner than later. And it also probably help you in the end to have, you're not building every single thing at the same time. You stagger it.
I think I would have had a mental breakdown.
Mhm.
Truly full transparent moment. I would have not been okay if
Yeah,
I took 4 days to build social media and a website and all
right.
the paperwork and transfer. No way.
No, no,
Please, whoever's watching, please don't do that. Please do
no.
not put that stress on yourself of as soon as I'm licensed, I have to do it all.
All the things.
Take
Mm.
some time, man. You have at least, depending on the state, at least 2 years, 3 years to start playing with it. And
Yeah,
let it be a trial and error experience of let me throw something at the wall and see what sticks with the population that I'm trying to talk to. Because the way I market could be very different for what your population needs and where they are.
exactly. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And it sounds like for you that really worked because then once you did launch, you're pretty good to go. Now it's just maintaining the systems that you'd already put into place.
Right, right. It worked well. I will say the thing that has been super helpful has been to bring on interns of my own. And full disclaimer here, they're not master's level interns that I had while I was associate licensed. That is not it. Board ethics, everyone, that is
Yes.
not what happened.
Right.
Right. But they were undergraduate interns that I trained to help me find things like maybe resources or help me find articles, videos, help with social media content creation. Shameless plug, I help people figure out interns for their private practices if you want to, but it saved my brain and my energy so I could focus on spending time with my family on the weekends rather than holy crap, I'm batching content and editing things through the entire week and then working 7 days a week, 24/7.
Yeah.
Interns are awesome.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good way to help other people too. It's like, you know, you're giving them something to put on their resume, giving them stuff to build up. So it's a mutual relationship. Like there's definitely some benefit there. Um,
Absolutely.
and it's cute to help like the next generation too.
Yes, it's so sweet. They're so eager.
Oh,
They're so eager of like, yes, let me research 20 things about social anxiety. I was
right.
like, great. I don't have the time for it, but I'm so glad that you're tickled too.
Yeah. And then they're
Right.
good. Now they can put this again on their resume. They've got this experience. And then if they do their own
Yes.
thing, yeah, it's amazing. But well, with all of the stuff that you've done, you mentioned already kind of one, I guess, resource, maybe not training, but resource, but has there been any other trainings or anything that you've taken that you think has maybe helped you either with practice stuff or just kind of as a clinician in general?
Yeah. Gosh, where do I want to start with that? So definitely, at least for Georgia, I don't know how it is for everybody else, but you have to have a telemental health CEU of like 6 hours, I think, for Georgia. So being able to have the online sessions, let that be one of the first trainings you do, is that you're really comfortable doing online telehealth stuff. At least with the population I work with, of like the highly sensitive people, the perfectionists, the anxious kind of people. At first, getting CBT trained was helpful because I feel like that's a really solid foundation for anybody of, can you recognize your thoughts and emotions and behaviors? Can you challenge things? And
Yeah.
CBT is a great solid tool in the tool belt there. But the thing that helped the most with those populations has been acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, because so much of anxious, HSP, perfectionist, people pleaser kind of people, we all want control. We want to hold on to something. We want to feel like we're not just trees in the wind getting blown around. We want to make sure that we feel somewhat solid.
Yeah.
And most things we can't control in the world, which sucks, first of all. But with having acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT stuff, trainings for that specifically, like ACT for anxious people, ACT for perfectionism. I did this really awesome international training. Holy moly, super cool. Lady was in Australia. So I was very tired. Training went till 9 p.m. at night. It was amazing. But that was so helpful for my brain as a clinician, as a recovering perfectionist, to listen to those things and hear those metaphors, hear the way that she handles mindfulness and acceptance and moving forward with our thoughts. That was really helpful for me, but also to take home for clients to understand later. And also to be around, honestly, most of the people in that training were also perfectionists. So we truly just had like vent sessions in our breakout rooms of like, holy moly, that was so eye-opening. What just happened? So to have a training that turned into therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
The best ones do. The best ones do.
Agreed. Yeah. That anything with ACT, I'm a very big fan of.
Very cool. Yeah, because that was something that theory was never talked about in my program, at least, because it's not one of like the big ones.
It's not as evidence-based practices.
But I've heard amazing things from every person that's taken it.
Yes. Big fan. I mean, because what are all the evidence-based ones? CBT, DBT?
Yeah, I think solution focused.
I'm sure there's more. Whoever remembers, put them in the comments because I'd love to see
what
that we're missing.
I mean, that goes to tell you that they're not, I mean, a lot of the stuff that you're taught isn't widely used, maybe pieces of it, but like those are the theories that they mostly cover in all these programs. Like EMDR wasn't even discussed. And I know it wasn't as big in like 2010, 2012, whatever, when I was in school, but that wasn't talked about at all. Even some of the trauma ones, like the other trauma ones, like CPT wasn't, or like prolonged exposure. Maybe somebody mentioned like that's a technique, but nobody mentioned like it was a whole training and a protocol. So yeah, there was a lot of gaps there. So if you don't feel like you relate, maybe as a new therapist, like another tip, if you don't feel like you relate to some of what you're being taught in classes, like then those theories tend to fit you. So I think a lot of people come out and they're like, what modality am I? Like if it defines who you are as a therapist, and it's like, most of us got a hodgepodge of different things that we pull from, because also clients are different, even with the same issues, clients present them very differently sometimes. So I like that you were like, what fits me? And you went out and found something that worked.
No, it's spot on. And I mean, now it depends on what situation and words are so hard, workplace setting that you're going to be in, because I know some community mental health, especially if it's state funded or federally funded, they will say you can only use CBT, DBT, only evidence-based stuff. Otherwise it's not going to be counted on their insurance or anything like that. That's a whole nother video for us to talk about. But if that's what you're supposed to do, please stick with those things, because that's your job. Like, don't just whip out like narrative or ACT or something else, and then that messes up with your job. Follow the protocol at your job, but when you're ready for private practice, let us know, because it's so much more fun to be able to use the things that actually work for that client and you tailor it for them.
Yeah. And you like, if you're like, here's a CBT worksheet and that's not really where your heart is, it's going to come across kind of fake at times,
And
like,
really dry.
yeah. Yeah. So,
I'm not as excited.
Yeah.
Because like I know just covering like maybe DBT acronyms, although helpful, really solid ways to like remember acronyms and all of that. But if that's the only thing you're doing session after session and you're doing 8 sessions a day and you're just going over the same acronyms over and over, you're bored.
Yeah.
And they know you're bored.
Yep. Yeah. You're not gonna really be selling it then. Like, here's this thing. Yeah, it's not gonna come across as genuine. So I think that's a good point. It's get trained in the things that maybe speak to you. If you feel like it's not what you've been given in grad school, or even at the places you've been doesn't really work for your style of therapy, then seek out some other stuff. But well, for my last big question, what do you wish you knew earlier in your career? Besides everything.
Besides everything we just
Yeah.
Okay, if I were to narrow it down to like the number one thing is having some sort of business class, whether that was undergrad or master's or some CEU, just like how the heck do I run a business? How the heck do I market? How do I network? Just a class for that. Like I know someone we're both obsessed with, Laura Long, is doing that. I can't remember what university it is that she did a class for. Was it
It's in
Auburn?
South Carolina. I think it might be Auburn.
Okay. One of the universities, shout out to Laura Long, obsessed with her as well. But she found a way to become a professor and teach that and help those people in those cohorts. And man, if I had had that,
Yeah.
I think I'd be in a very different realm right now of feeling more prepared and more confident. I have a tendency to find the new therapist and they come to me for therapy, which is so happy.
Yeah.
That's how I'm just like, let me just guide you and help you out here because it makes me happy because it's not just mentoring, it's actually therapizing them. I know that's not, but it is that to help them be like, okay, I'm anxious about my first session ever. What do I do in an intake? How do I handle this? How do I handle my emotions and regulate myself so I'm not literally dripping sweat in my first session? Oh my gosh, to be able to help them, even if it's one-on-one, I know that you have the same kind of passion of like, let me help new therapists. Let me make sure that they feel more comfortable and confident and competent in what they're doing.
Right.
Man. And I know it's just fun to watch you light up about it whenever you talk about helping new therapists. Like,
yeah, I know that's like why we're here and all the other stuff I'm about to do and grow because it's, there's that saying of like, be who you needed when you were younger. That's what I'm living off of with all of this now is I think of scenarios that not only me, but everybody I was surrounded with, my cohort was like 40 something people. So there was a lot of us. And, I just think about different places I've worked and different scenarios I've been in that it's like, oh, like that would have been so much more helpful if somebody had told me how to handle that or gave me options or discuss certain things. And I wouldn't have spent so much time constantly seeking out solutions or knowledge from other people or places after I had spent so much time and money in thinking I was going to have all this coming out of school or in certain internships or in certain workspaces and really not getting that. So yeah, I'm hoping that platforms like this and some of the work that, other people are doing is helping this new generation come up and feel more confident because ultimately it's going to help the clients, which is going to help them be better parents, partner, whatever else. And
all the roles and hats we have.
Yeah, this world's a hot mess. So if we can help in our way, then that would be great. Good karma, everybody's happy. It's better. But yeah, I think you're right on the business end because that literally was never talked about once.
Nope.
At all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Things to be improved. Shout outs to all the universities that are hopefully watching this. Please take care of your people that are paying you really big money to learn things, not just.
Yeah. Yep. And have maybe more electives then. If you have to have like a regimented core schedule, then maybe offering some electives, like you said, like the business in private practice or whatever else. Laura was a guest a couple weeks ago. And so she mostly talked about her journey, but same thing. There was gaps there where she wasn't taught this stuff. So she had to create it. And yeah, I think that there's a lot out here that we can all do that we're not really told, but we're proving that right now with how your social media is, some of the things that you do in the community, like, which I want to talk about next. But I think that there's so many places we can go, and I want new therapists to know that too.
Mhm.
So, and your journey as well. Like you said, going to private practice, that's looked down upon by some people, the Karens in this profession.
Yes, the
And
care.
you're proof you can do it. So, yeah.
Same to you, dude. I mean, if you've not shared your journey, you should share your journey.
Yeah. I did like the general version. I'm sure I'm gonna get into some of the real good drama and like spill the tea in future episodes. I might have a whole series called Spill the Tea now I'm thinking about it and really get into like the examples. But yeah, it'll be good.
That'll be
Oh,
good.
well, speaking of again, stuff in the community, what have you been working on that maybe we can share with people or things that can give examples of other things therapists can do?
Yeah. So, oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna try and not take up like a whole hour of things that I like to do. Um, so we talked about intern stuff,
Yeah.
right? There's options there. Um, what else? I'm a prepare enrich facilitator trainer. So I train facilitators, and that's coming up August 26th. Anybody in the US and Canada, I think. I mean, internationally, if you want to see what happens, but probably in that US, North America realm, to be trained to work with couples in a premarital realm. Keep in mind, I don't come at it from like a churchy version or religious version. Is truly just foundation for your relationship. So if you're into like multiple partners or all the things, cool, let's talk about it. I just want to make sure that you're able to help your couples in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So that's August 26th. I'll send you a link for that. But what else? I do yoga networking event for therapists every month in
Very
Georgia. It's usually in like the Alpharetta, North Atlanta realm. So Samantha, if you are ever all the way down here, let me know.
Yeah.
But it's super fun to just have yoga for an hour and self-care and breathe and mindfulness. And then we have like a cute little roundup of therapists sitting on the ground after we did all of our stretchy things and just sharing our specialties and things we have questions about and mentoring all at the same time. It's really, really cool of how it's grown. What else do I do? That's probably more than enough.
Yeah, it's a good start.
Yeah.
But again, it shows that there's different ways you could branch out, and your
Oh my-
social media is amazing.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that social media piece, super fun while it grew. And then I hired on interns, and I've had, gosh, 3 years now, maybe 3 years now of semester long internships.
Oh,
So it has been a minute. I have solid protocol and all the fun things at this point. But what's really cool is that each of the people that I've hired on as like the blog post editor, or the social media manager, or the virtual assistant, intern supervisor, newsletter person, they're all past interns. So they already know my mind and how that works. So
yeah.
I've really just like promoted them and internal bits, and
Love it.
it's fantastic.
Well, that's what happens when you take care of your people too, is they want to stay with you. So
Isn't
that's
that funny
awesome.
how that works?
Yeah.
Take care of your people.
Yeah. If only every place did that. But then we wouldn't probably be working for ourselves. So, you gotta have those lessons, I guess.
That's true.
But yeah, so there's so many different things you're doing, and your newsletter is awesome. So everything will be linked below so people can follow and see, not only what you have done, but also all the things that you have coming up, because I know that's just like a snapshot of some
Yeah.
of what you're doing and about to do. So it's very cool.
I am never bored.
Yeah, sounds like it. Definitely sounds like it. But again, it's a good example of how many different places you can go, even within this one career, right? Of here's private practice. That doesn't mean that you just have to see clients one-on-one every day, all day. Like there's tons of ways to be creative and branch out.
Yeah, do the mentoring, do the networking, whatever makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Write a book, write a book, podcast, do a YouTube series.
Mm-hmm.
Show up where you're happy.
Yeah. No, I think that would be great. So I'm gonna, like I said, everything will be linked below so people can see it instead of just hearing it, and follow and everything else. But I just appreciate you taking the time to do this today, because again, you're very busy. So
It's all good. The nanny's here. We're fine.
Oh, good to go then. See, and that's a form of self-care as well. So
Hiring nannies is self-care. Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I just appreciate you. Yeah.
I appreciate you. I'm glad if people don't know our story really quick, we
Yeah.
follow each other on social media, and I was like, she seems cool. Let me creep on her website. And I was like, holy moly, it's amazing. The copywriting is beautiful. If I was in North Carolina, I would want to work with her.
Love
And
it.
so I just randomly DM'd her. I was like, you seem cool. Can we be friends? And
Yeah.
here we are.
I know. And then we met online. We've had a few different conversations. We did just our first at the speaking events together. Like, it's very cool. So again, the networking power, which I would love for you to come on a future episode if you'd be willing to and talk about that specifically, because nobody has yet and you're good at it. So this is proof that you're good at it. So let's do it.
Yes, I am, dude.
Yay. Well, follow her, everybody. I want you guys to see what she's up to. And then if you want to follow me, subscribe and stay tuned with future episodes. And I started my email list and that's below as well. So follow that and my new Facebook group for new therapists too. So you guys can all connect with each other. But thank you again, Rachel. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye, guys.